The paralyzed millionaire adopted identical 6-year-old twin girls from poverty. He laughed when they said, "Get up and walk," until he felt his legs. Before we dive in, whether you're having your morning coffee or winding down for the night, you're exactly where you need to be. William Montgomery hated charity events. Yet here he was, at the annual Children's Hope Foundation Gala, trapped in his custom-designed wheelchair amidst Seattle's elite. At 45, Will had everything money could buy: a tech empire worth billions, a mansion overlooking Puget Sound, and absolutely no one to share it with. "Mr. Montgomery, so glad you could make it," Mrs. Eleanor Pierce, the foundation's director, approached with her practiced smile. At 63, she'd spent decades matching orphaned children with families. "Your donation this year is extraordinarily generous," she continued. Will nodded curtly. "Tax purposes," he lied. He wouldn't admit that beneath his carefully cultivated cynicism, something in him still hoped to make a difference. Born with complete paralysis below the waist, Will had never taken a single step. His parents had exhausted their resources seeking treatments before they died in a car accident when he was 19. Alone and angry, he channeled his brilliant mind into creating adaptive technologies, building Montgomery Solutions into a billion-dollar company. "There's someone I'd like you to meet," Mrs. Pierce said, gesturing toward the children's area. "I'm not interested in meeting anyone," Will replied, but she was already walking away. Will sighed and maneuvered his wheelchair through the crowd. He stopped at the edge of the children's play area, observing from a distance. Most of the children were engaged in various activities, except for two small figures sitting quietly in the corner. Identical twin girls, he realized. About 6 years old, with dark curly hair and unusual amber eyes. Unlike the other children in their donated party clothes, these two wore mismatched too large sweaters over faded dresses. They weren't playing or talking, just watching. When their eyes met his, Will felt an uncomfortable jolt of recognition. The twins whispered to each other, then stood in perfect synchronization and walked directly toward him. "Mr. Montgomery," said Mrs. Pierce, reappearing, "I'd like you to meet Emma and Olivia." The twins stopped before his wheelchair, studying him with unnerving intensity. "Hello," he said awkwardly. "You're in pain," one twin said. "Not just your legs," added the other. "Your heart hurts worse." Will's mouth went dry. "Excuse me?" The girls exchanged glances, then the slightly more outspoken one, Emma, he would later learn, leaned forward and whispered, "We can help you." Something in her voice, in both their steady gazes, sent a chill down Will's spine, even in the parts of his body he'd never felt. "What did you say?" he demanded, but Mrs. Pierce was already ushering the girls away, apologizing for their behavior. "They've been through so much," she explained. "Their mother died 3 years ago. No father in the picture. They've been in 7 foster homes since then. No one keeps them long." Will couldn't tear his eyes away from the twins, who continued to watch him from across the room. "Why not?" he found himself asking. Mrs. Pierce hesitated. "People find them unsettling. They say things, know things they shouldn't." Will Montgomery left the gala earlier than planned that night, but he couldn't leave behind the memory of those amber eyes that seemed to see straight through him. Rebecca Johnson had worked as William Montgomery's personal assistant for 10 years, and in all that time she'd never seen him so disturbed. "You want to what?" she asked, certain she'd misheard. "I want information on those twins from the gala," Will repeated, not looking up from his computer. "Everything you can find." "May I ask why?" Will finally met her gaze. "Because I can't stop thinking about them." 3 days had passed since the Children's Hope Foundation event, and Will had barely slept. Those little girls with their haunting eyes and impossible perception had lodged themselves in his mind. "Tell me what happened," Rebecca said gently. Will hesitated. At 38, Rebecca was the closest thing to a friend he had, besides his business partner Thomas. She'd been with him through medical crises, business triumphs, and countless bitter days. "They said they could help me," he finally admitted. "As if they knew everything." Rebecca's expression softened. "Will, they're just children." "I know that," he snapped. "Just get me the information." While Rebecca made calls, Will wheeled himself to the floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the sound. The grey November sky matched his mood. He thought about his childhood, the doctors, the treatments, the pitying looks. His parents had loved him fiercely, but they couldn't protect him from the world's cruelty or his body's limitations. By age 10, he'd stopped believing in miracles. By 15, he'd stopped believing in anything at all. Rebecca's voice pulled him from his memories. "I have some information," she said. "It's unusual." The twins' story was tragic but straightforward. Their mother, Sarah Collins, had died of pneumonia when they were 3. With no known relatives, they entered the foster system. What wasn't straightforward was their pattern of placement. 7 homes in 3 years, Rebecca read. Each family reported the same issues, the girls speaking in unison, knowing things they couldn't possibly know, waking simultaneously from identical nightmares. Will's pulse quickened. "What else?" "They were homeless for several months this year. A shelter took them in during the summer, but they're back in the system now, currently waiting for placement." Will stared at the rain streaking his windows. "I want to meet them." "Meet them?" Rebecca echoed. "Will, what are you thinking?" He wasn't entirely sure himself. "Just arrange it." 2 days later, Will sat in Mrs. Pierce's office at the foundation headquarters. The social worker's surprise had been evident when he'd requested a meeting about Emma and Olivia. "I'm curious what your interest might be, Mr. Montgomery," she said cautiously. Will had prepared for this. "My foundation is considering a special grant for children with unusual needs." Mrs. Pierce nodded slowly. "The Collins twins certainly qualify. Brilliant, according to their test scores, but deeply traumatized by their mother's death and subsequent instability." "Tell me about their mother." Sarah Collins was a nurse at Harborview Medical Center, by all accounts devoted to her daughters. Some colleagues mentioned she had unusual beliefs, alternative healing practices. Will leaned forward. "What happened to her?" "She refused conventional treatment for pneumonia. By the time she was hospitalized, it was too late." A knock interrupted them. The door opened, and the twins entered, still moving with that eerie synchronization. Today they wore identical blue dresses, their curly hair pulled back in matching headbands. When they saw Will, they smiled. Not the smile of ordinary children, but something knowing, almost ancient. "We knew you'd come," they said together. "How did you know I'd come?" Will asked, watching the twins carefully. Mrs. Pierce intervened. "Girls, Mr. Montgomery is here to—" "He's here because of what we said," Emma interrupted, her amber eyes fixed on Will. "He wants to know if we meant it," Olivia added softly. Will felt a chill again. "And did you?" The twins exchanged one of their looks, silent communication that seemed to transcend normal understanding. "We see things others don't," Emma explained. "Energy," Olivia clarified. "Light and darkness in people." "That's enough, girls," Mrs. Pierce said firmly. "Why don't you show Mr. Montgomery your drawings while I get some paperwork?" After she left, Will studied the twins more carefully. Despite their identical appearance, he was beginning to notice subtle differences. Emma held herself with more confidence, while Olivia's gaze seemed more contemplative. "Your mother was a nurse," Will said. "She was a healer," Emma corrected. "Not the kind with medicines," Olivia added. "She helped people feel better by fixing their energy," Emma continued. "She taught us how to see it." Will's scientific mind rebelled against such concepts, yet something deeper in him responded. "And you think you can help me?" "We know we can," they answered in unison. No one has been able to help me in 45 years, Will said bitterly. I've seen the best specialists in the world. They only look at your body, Emma said. Not your spirit, Olivia finished. Will was spared having to respond when Mrs. Pierce returned with a file. She spent the next 20 minutes explaining the twins' situation, their difficulty in placements, their special educational needs, their occasional behavioral issues. They need stability, she emphasized, a permanent home. Will found himself saying, what would it take for someone to foster them? Mrs. Pierce's eyebrows shot up. Are you suggesting... Hypothetically, Will added quickly. As Mrs. Pierce outlined the process, Will noticed the twins had begun drawing. When they finished, they silently handed him their pictures. 2 identical drawings of his mansion, a place they'd never seen, with 3 figures standing in front, a tall man and 2 small girls. The man wasn't in a wheelchair. Will's heart pounded. How did you... We told you, Emma said simply. We can see things. That evening, Will sat in his home office, the twins' drawings spread before him. Rebecca stood nearby, concern etched on her face. You can't seriously be considering this, she said. I'm not, Will replied automatically, but they both knew it was a lie. You know nothing about raising children, let alone twins with, whatever issues they have. I have a 12-bedroom house, Rebecca. More money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and they have no one. This isn't about charity, Rebecca observed. It's about what they said to you. Will didn't answer. Will, there are no miracles. You know that better than anyone. But later that night, alone in his bedroom, Will found himself doing something he hadn't done since childhood, wondering if perhaps he might be wrong about that. The next morning he called Mrs. Pierce. I'd like to have Emma and Olivia visit my home, he said, to see if it might be a good fit. 3 days later, the twins arrived with Mrs. Pierce for their first visit to the Montgomery mansion. As they stepped from the car, both girls stared up at the massive glass and steel structure with identical expressions of recognition. It's just like we drew it, Emma whispered. Because we've been here before, Olivia added, in our dreams. Will felt that unsettling chill again, stronger this time, like standing at the edge of something vast and unknown. Welcome, he said simply, and wheeled himself back to allow them entry into his home, and though he didn't realize it yet, into his carefully guarded heart. The twins moved through Will's modernist mansion with curious familiarity, pointing out features they couldn't possibly know about. Your bedroom is upstairs, but you have an elevator, Emma said, pointing to the discreet panel in the wall that most visitors never noticed. And a special bathroom with rails, Olivia added. Mrs. Pierce gave Will an apologetic look. The girls have very active imaginations. But Will knew it wasn't imagination. Somehow these children knew things, impossible things. Rebecca had arranged a lunch of children's favorites, grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, served in the rarely used sunroom overlooking the garden. Will watched as the twins ate neatly, their manners surprisingly refined for children who had spent time homeless. "Did your mother teach you to eat like that?" he asked. "Yes," Emma answered. "She said being poor was no excuse for forgetting dignity." The simple statement, delivered in a child's voice but with adult understanding, struck Will deeply. Despite his wealth, he recognized something in these children that he understood intimately: the determination to maintain dignity in the face of hardship. After lunch, Mrs. Pierce suggested the twins explore the garden while she discussed logistics with Will. "This is highly unusual, Mr. Montgomery," she said, once they were alone. "Single men rarely apply to foster children, especially ones with special circumstances." "I understand that," Will replied, "but I have resources most foster parents don't. I can provide them with everything they need." "Children need more than material things, Mr. Montgomery. They need time, attention, stability. I work from home. My schedule is flexible, and I don't think they'll find more stability elsewhere given their history. Mrs. Pierce studied him. Why these particular children? There are many in need. Will considered lying, then decided on a partial truth. I see myself in them. Different. Misunderstood. Through the window, they watched as the twins explored the garden, occasionally stopping to whisper to each other. They communicate in ways even experts don't understand, Mrs. Pierce said. Twin language, they call it, but it's more than that. They share dreams, thoughts, even physical sensations. One gets hurt, the other feels it. That night, after the twins and Mrs. Pierce had left with arrangements for a longer visit the following weekend, Will found himself researching twin phenomena. The scientific literature acknowledged unusual connections between identical twins, but offered little explanation. He was deep in his research when Rebecca brought him tea. "How did it go?" she asked. "Better than expected," Will admitted. "They're extraordinary children." Rebecca sat across from him. "Will, I need to ask you something. Are you considering this because you genuinely want to help these girls, or because you're hoping they can somehow help you?" The question stung with its accuracy. Can't it be both? Not if you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Whatever these girls think they can do. "I know," Will interrupted. "There are no miracles." But later, in the darkness of his bedroom, Will remembered the drawing of himself standing. Something long dormant stirred inside him, hope, that most dangerous of emotions. The weekend visit came quickly. Mrs. Pierce dropped the twins off with small suitcases containing their meager possessions. "We've never had our own room before," Emma said. As Rebecca showed them the guest suite Will had hastily converted into a bedroom, with 2 twin beds and age-appropriate furniture. "Not since Mommy," Olivia clarified. That first night, Will was awakened at 2 a.m. by the house security system alerting him to movement. The cameras showed the twins, still in their matching pajamas, sitting in the grand living room in perfect stillness. Will took the elevator down and wheeled himself into the room. "Can't sleep?" he asked gently. "We're listening to the house," Emma explained. "It has sad places," Olivia added, "like you do." "Houses don't have feelings," Will said automatically. The twins looked at him with that disconcerting wisdom. "Everything has feelings," Emma said. "Most people just forget how to hear them." "Our mommy could hear them," Olivia said softly. That's how she knew how to fix people. Will hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning inside him. How did she fix them? "She helped them remember," Emma said. "Remember what?" "That they're more than just bodies," Olivia explained. "Bodies listen to what we believe about them." "And what do I believe about mine?" Will asked, somehow knowing they would have an answer. "That it betrayed you," they said in perfect unison. "But it didn't. It's waiting for you to trust it again." The following morning, Will found himself watching the twins with new fascination. They moved through his home with a grace that belied their age and background, occasionally stopping to touch a wall or object with thoughtful expressions. "What are they doing?" Rebecca whispered as they observed the girls from the kitchen doorway. "They say they're listening to the house," Will replied. Rebecca gave him a concerned look. "Will, I know you're captivated by them, but children need normalcy, structure." "They've never had normal," Will pointed out. 7 foster homes, Rebecca. Homelessness. These aren't ordinary children looking for an ordinary life. By Sunday evening, Will had made his decision. After the twins went to bed, he called Mrs. Pierce. "I want to begin formal fostering procedures," he said without preamble. There was a long pause before she answered. "Mr. Montgomery, while I appreciate your interest, I need to be certain you understand what you're taking on. These children have special needs that go beyond the typical. I understand that. Do you? Because it would be devastating for them to form an attachment only to be returned to the system again." Will's voice hardened. "I don't give up on things, Mrs. Pierce. Very well. I'll start the paperwork tomorrow. In the meantime, we'll need to arrange a series of home visits and evaluations. Will had expected this and was prepared. His resources could expedite the process, but even he couldn't bypass all the requirements. Still, by the following weekend, the twins had moved in on a provisional basis while the formal fostering process continued. Dr. Marcus Chen arrived Monday morning for Will's regular checkup. At 52, Dr. Chen had been treating Will for over 15 years and had become more friend than physician. "So, the rumors are true," he said after Will explained the situation. "William Montgomery is becoming a father." "Foster father," Will corrected. "Temporarily." Dr. Chen smiled knowingly as he checked Will's vital signs. "Where are they now?" "With Rebecca in the garden. She's trying to establish a routine." As if summoned by their discussion, the doors to Will's study opened, and the twins appeared. They stopped abruptly when they saw Dr. Chen. "Girls, this is Dr. Chen," Will introduced. "He's my doctor." The twins studied the physician with their unsettling gaze. "You're looking in the wrong places," Emma said finally. Dr. Chen blinked in surprise. "Excuse me? His spine isn't the problem," Olivia explained. "It never was." The doctor glanced at Will, who shrugged helplessly. "The girls have unusual perspectives," Will said. "I see," Dr. Chen replied diplomatically. "And what do you think is the problem, young ladies?" The twins exchanged their silent communication before Emma answered. "His energy is blocked, has been since he was born." "Energy?" Dr. Chen echoed. "Life force," Olivia clarified. "It can't flow properly." Will noticed Dr. Chen's scientific skepticism battling with his cultural background. As a first-generation Chinese-American, he'd grown up with concepts of qi and energy meridians alongside his Western medical training. "That's a very interesting theory," Dr. Chen said carefully. "It's not a theory," Emma replied with childlike certainty. "We can see it." Dr. Rebecca appeared in the doorway. "I'm so sorry, Will. They slipped away while I was on the phone." "It's fine," Will assured her. "Dr. Chen was just finishing up." After the doctor left, promising to return the following week, Will found himself alone with the twins in his study. "Why did you say those things to Dr. Chen?" he asked. "Because they're true," Emma said simply. "You've never walked because the energy can't flow through the blockage," Olivia added. Will felt a familiar anger rising, the same anger he'd felt toward every charlatan and well-meaning fool who had offered miracle cures throughout his life. "That's enough," he said sharply. "I've had every test, every treatment available. My condition is permanent, scientific fact." The twins were unfazed by his anger. "Science doesn't know everything," Emma said. "Your body wants to heal," Olivia added. "It's waiting for you." Will gripped his wheelchair arms until his knuckles whitened. "Stop it! Now!" For the first time, he saw hurt in their identical expressions. They nodded solemnly and turned to leave. That night, Will couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about their words, about his own harsh response. These were children who had lost everything: their mother, their home, their security. Whatever strange ideas they had were likely their way of making sense of an unpredictable world. Tomorrow, he decided, he would apologize and establish clearer boundaries. This arrangement could still work if he approached it rationally, but at 3 a.m. his bedroom door slowly opened. The twins stood in the doorway, illuminated by the dim nightlight. "We're sorry we made you angry," Emma said softly. "We just want to help," Olivia added. Will's irritation melted away. "Come in," he said, switching on his bedside lamp. "We should talk." The girls approached his bed, their expressions solemn. "I'm not angry," Will said gently, "but I need you to understand something. I've lived with this condition my entire life. I've accepted it." "No, you haven't," they said in unison. Before Will could respond, Emma stepped forward and placed her small hand on his. Our mommy said that sometimes people need to be ready before they can heal. Are you ready? Olivia asked. Will looked at these strange, wonderful children and felt something shift inside him. What would I need to do? The twins smiled. Real children's smiles this time, full of hope. Just believe, Emma said. And let us help, Olivia added. Then, together, they spoke the words that would change everything. Rise and walk. Will couldn't help himself. He laughed. It's not that simple. It is, they insisted. Will opened his mouth to explain again about nerve damage and medical realities when suddenly he felt it. A tingling sensation in his toes. A feeling he had never experienced in his entire life. His laughter died abruptly. Oh my God, he whispered. What is it? Emma asked, noticing Will's shocked expression. Will could barely form words. My toes, he managed. I can. Feel them. The twins exchanged triumphant glances. It's starting, Olivia said softly. Will's scientific mind raced for explanations, phantom sensations, psychological suggestion, a random nerve misfire. Anything but what the twins were suggesting. This isn't possible, he insisted, even as the tingling sensation continued. Call Dr. Chen, Emma suggested. Now, Olivia added. With trembling hands, Will reached for his phone. Despite the hour, Dr. Chen answered on the third ring. Will, what's wrong? I need you to come over now. Are you having chest pains, breathing difficulties? No, Will said, his voice unsteady. I can feel my toes. Silence. Then, cautiously, Will, are you sure you're fully awake? Just come, please. While they waited for Dr. Chen, Will tried to stay calm. The sensation continued, unmistakable now. He could feel the weight of the blanket on his toes, could tell when Emma tentatively touched his foot. How? He asked the twins, who sat patiently beside his bed. How is this happening? We told you, Emma said. Your energy is starting to flow. But it's just beginning, Olivia cautioned. There's more to do. When Dr. Chen arrived 40 minutes later, his face reflected professional concern. He'd known Will long enough to respect his intelligence and self-awareness. The examination was thorough. Dr. Chen tested reflexes, sensation, and response in Will's lower extremities. His expression grew increasingly bewildered. There is definitely some nerve response, he finally admitted. It's minimal, but it's there. This shouldn't be possible. But it is, Emma said confidently. Dr. Chen looked at the twins with new interest. What exactly did you do? We didn't do anything yet, Olivia explained. We just helped him start believing. This is medically impossible, Dr. Chen insisted. Nerve regeneration doesn't happen spontaneously, especially not after 45 years of complete paralysis. Maybe it's not the nerves, Emma suggested. Maybe it's something else, Olivia added. Dr. Chen frowned. What do you mean? The twins looked at each other, then at Will. Can we tell him about Mommy? Emma asked. Will nodded, still dazed by the impossible sensations in his extremities. Our Mommy could see energy, Emma began, the life force in people. When it got stuck or blocked, people got sick, Olivia continued. She could help unstick it. She was a nurse, Emma added, but that was just her job. Her real work was healing. Dr. Chen listened with scientific skepticism but growing curiosity. And she taught you to do this. She was teaching us, Olivia corrected, before she got sick. But we can see it, Emma said. We always could. And she pointed at Will, has been blocked since he was born. Not his spine, Olivia emphasized, his energy. By morning, Will's house had become a flurry of activity. Dr. Chen had called colleagues, neurologists and specialists who arrived with equipment and skepticism in equal measure. The twins watched calmly as Will underwent tests in his home medical suite. Rebecca managed the household chaos while watching Will with concern. "How are you feeling?" she asked when they had a moment alone. "Terrified," Will admitted. "Either I'm experiencing a medical miracle or I'm losing my mind." "The tests confirm sensation," Rebecca reminded him. "That's real." Will nodded. "But what does it mean? And how is it possible?" The preliminary results were baffling to the medical team. Will's nerve pathways showed increased activity, but there was no clear medical explanation for the change. When the doctors finally left, promising more tests and consultations, Will found himself alone with the twins in his study. The girls had been remarkably patient throughout the examinations, answering questions simply but revealing little. "I need to understand," Will said. "Please." The twins sat across from him, suddenly looking very much like the 6-year-old children they were, tired from the long day but determined. "Our mommy explained it like this," Emma began. "Everything alive has energy flowing through it. Like rivers," Olivia added. "When the river gets blocked by rocks or logs, the water can't flow." "And the land downstream gets dry and sick," Emma continued. "But if you clear the blockage, the water flows again, and everything comes back to life." Will shook his head, struggling to reconcile their childish metaphors with what was happening to his body. "But what's blocking my energy?" The twins exchanged one of their looks. "Fear," they said together. "Fear of what?" Will demanded. "Of believing," Emma said. "Of hoping," Olivia added. "Of being hurt again," they finished in unison. Will felt exposed, as if these children could see every painful moment of his life, every failed treatment, every dashed hope, every wall he'd built around his heart. "And you can fix this?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Not alone," Emma said. "You have to help," Olivia explained. "How?" "By remembering who you really are," they said together. "Before you decided you were broken." That night, as Will lay in bed contemplating the impossible events of the past 24 hours, he found himself doing something he hadn't done in decades: praying. Not to any specific deity, but to whatever force might exist beyond his understanding. The sensation in his toes remained, neither increasing nor fading. A miracle or a cruel joke, a beginning or a false hope. As dawn broke, Will made his decision. Whatever was happening, whatever impossible thing these children believed they could do, he would embrace it fully. After a lifetime of bitter acceptance, he would choose hope. When Rebecca arrived that morning, Will was waiting for her with the twins beside him. "Call Mrs. Pierce," he said firmly. "Tell her I'm not just fostering Emma and Olivia. I want to adopt them." Rebecca's eyes widened. "Will, are you sure? With everything that's happening, I've never been more sure of anything." Will interrupted. "Whatever happens with my condition, these girls belong here, with me." The twins beamed at him with identical smiles, their amber eyes shining with a joy that transcended their years. "We knew you'd say that," Emma said happily. "We've been waiting for you our whole lives," Olivia added. And for the first time since he could remember, William Montgomery felt something unfamiliar bloom in his chest. Not just hope, but the warm certainty of coming home. The adoption process moved swiftly, accelerated by Will's resources and determination. Mrs. Pierce remained cautiously supportive, conducting weekly visits to monitor the unusual family's progress. Meanwhile, Will's medical team was baffled by the continuing changes in his condition. The sensation had spread from his toes to his entire feet, then slowly up his calves. Dr. Chen brought in specialists from across the country, each leaving more confused than when they arrived. "There's no medical explanation," Dr. Eliza Warren, a leading neurologist from Johns Hopkins, admitted after a full day of tests. "By all scientific understanding, this shouldn't be happening." "But it is," Will replied simply. The twins observed the medical proceedings with quiet confidence. They never interfered with the tests, but maintained their own parallel approach to Will's recovery. Each morning before dawn, they would come to his room. Together, they would place their small hands on his legs and speak softly about energy pathways and blockages. Will couldn't understand most of what they described, but he felt the warmth spreading through his limbs during these sessions. "What exactly are you doing?" he asked one morning as the strange tingling intensified. "Reminding your body who it really is," Emma explained. "How to be whole again," Olivia added. Will had stopped questioning their unusual way of speaking. Instead, he found himself leaning into their strange wisdom, absorbing their absolute certainty that healing was not just possible, but inevitable. 3 weeks after the twins' arrival, Will experienced something extraordinary. During their morning session, Emma asked him to try moving his right leg. "I can't," Will said automatically. "Don't think about how," Olivia instructed. "Just remember." "Remember what?" "How it feels to move," they said together. Will closed his eyes. Though he'd never walked, he'd spent countless hours imagining what it would be like, visualizing the neural pathways, connecting intention to movement. He focused on his right leg, picturing the muscles contracting, the knee bending. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, "Oh my God," Rebecca gasped from the doorway. Will opened his eyes. His right knee had lifted slightly, barely an inch, but unmistakably, impossibly, he had moved his leg. The twins beamed with identical expressions of delight. "You remembered," Emma said happily. Tears streamed down Will's face as he stared at his leg, a lifetime of immobility shattered by this tiny movement. "How?" he whispered. "Your body always knew how," Olivia explained. "It just forgot because you told it couldn't." Rebecca approached cautiously, as if any sudden movement might break the spell. "I'm calling Dr. Chen," she said, her voice unsteady. Within hours, Will's bedroom had transformed into a medical research center. Doctors crowded around his bed, observing as he demonstrated his new ability, small, deliberate movements of both legs. "This defies everything we know about paralysis," Dr. Warren said, reviewing the latest test results. "Your neural pathways are regenerating. It's unprecedented." Through it all, the twins watched calmly, occasionally exchanging their private smiles, when a doctor proposed some complicated explanation for what was happening. That evening, after the medical team finally departed, promising to return with more equipment, Will found himself alone with the twins in the garden room. Rebecca had arranged a small celebration dinner, Will's favorite foods, sparkling cider for the girls, and a bottle of champagne he hadn't touched. "I don't understand how you're doing this," Will said quietly. "We're not," Emma replied. "You are." "We're just helping you remember how to be whole," Olivia added. Will studied these extraordinary children who had appeared in his life like angels. Or perhaps, he sometimes thought, like something even more ancient and powerful. "Your mother," he began carefully. "Could she heal anyone?" The twins exchanged a look. "Not everyone was ready," Emma explained. "Some people held too tightly to being sick," Olivia added. "It became who they were," they finished together. Will nodded, understanding exactly what they meant. His paralysis had defined him for so long, shaped his identity, his business, his relationships. To let it go meant becoming someone new, someone unknown. "I'm ready," he said firmly. "Whatever it takes, I'm ready." The twins smiled, but there was something in their expression, a shadow of something they weren't telling him. "There's more, isn't there?" Will asked. "Something you're not saying." Their amber eyes met his with that disconcerting wisdom. "Yes," they admitted together. "Tell me." Emma reached for her sister's hand before answering. "Healing takes energy." "Our energy," Olivia clarified. "What does that mean?" Will asked, suddenly concerned. "It means there's a price," they said together. "Always." Before Will could press further, Rebecca returned with dessert. The conversation shifted, but Will couldn't stop thinking about their words. A price. What exactly were these children giving up to help him? That night, Will dreamed of walking through his garden, the twins skipping ahead of him in the sunshine. He could feel the grass beneath his feet, the muscles in his legs working in perfect harmony. When he woke, the sensation lingered, not just in his mind, but in his body. Filled with new determination, Will reached for the physical therapy equipment Dr. Chen had left. For the first time in his life, he began to exercise his legs independently without medical assistance. By the time the twins arrived for their morning session, Will was drenched in sweat, but exhilarated. "I can feel everything," he told them excitedly. "It's getting stronger." The twins nodded, but Will noticed dark circles under their eyes that hadn't been there before. They seemed paler, their boundless energy slightly diminished. "Are you feeling okay?" he asked, suddenly remembering their cryptic words from the night before. "We're fine," Emma assured him. "Just a little tired," Olivia added. But as they placed their hands on his legs and began their mysterious work, Will couldn't shake the feeling that something important was happening beneath the surface. Something the twins weren't telling him. Something that might change everything. News of Will's improving condition spread quickly through medical circles. What had begun as a professional courtesy, doctors discreetly consulting on an unusual case, soon erupted into a full-blown scientific controversy. Medical journals requested interviews, research institutions offered funding for studies, and television producers called daily, seeking exclusive rights to what they were already calling the Montgomery Miracle. Will refused them all. He had two priorities: protecting the twins from scrutiny and continuing his rapidly progressing recovery. By the 6th week, Will could not only move his legs, but was beginning to build strength in his atrophied muscles. Dr. Chen supervised daily physical therapy, documenting every inexplicable improvement. "The adoption hearing is next week," Rebecca reminded Will as she helped him with his exercises one morning. "Are you sure you want to proceed with all this going on?" "More sure than ever," Will replied, concentrating on bending his knee against resistance bands. "Emma and Olivia are my daughters now, regardless of what happens with my condition." Rebecca nodded, but her expression remained concerned. Mrs. Pierce called. "There are questions being raised about the girl's involvement in your treatment." Will's jaw tightened. "What kind of questions?" "Child Services is concerned about possible exploitation. Some of the doctors have reported the girl's claims about healing energy. It's raising red flags." "That's ridiculous," Will snapped. "They're not being exploited. If anything, I'm worried they're giving too much of themselves." The twins had continued to show subtle signs of fatigue. Their boundless energy had diminished, replaced by periods of unusual quietness. They still performed their morning ritual with Will, but afterward would often nap for hours. Behavior Dr. Chen confirmed was atypical for children their age. When Will questioned them, they deflected with practiced skill, changing the subject or speaking in their cryptic metaphors about energy flowing between all living things. That afternoon, a neuropsychologist arrived to evaluate the twins as part of the adoption process. Dr. Sarah Jenkins was a specialist in child development with a particular interest in twins. Will watched anxiously as she interviewed Emma and Olivia in his sunroom, their small faces serious as they answered her questions. "They're extraordinary children," Dr. Jenkins told Will afterward. "Their cognitive development is years beyond their age, especially in certain areas. But what?" Will prompted when she hesitated. "They show signs of what we might call magical thinking, beliefs about their abilities to affect physical reality in ways that aren't possible. That's not unusual in children who've experienced trauma, but the extent of their shared belief system is remarkable." Will chose his words carefully. What if their beliefs aren't entirely magical thinking? Dr. Jenkins raised an eyebrow. You mean your recovery? Can you explain it? No, she admitted. But there are many phenomena science doesn't yet understand. That doesn't mean we should default to supernatural explanations. What will your report say about the adoption? Dr. Jenkins considered. That they're intelligent, well-adjusted children despite their trauma, with a strong bond to you. And that whatever beliefs they may have about healing energy, those beliefs aren't harmful to their development. Will exhaled with relief. Thank you. After Dr. Jenkins left, Will found the twins in their bedroom, sitting cross-legged on their beds, eyes closed as if meditating. Girls, he said softly. They opened their eyes simultaneously. We did good, Emma stated. She's going to help us stay, Olivia added. Will entered the room, maneuvering his wheelchair beside their beds. Though he could now move his legs, he still lacked the strength to walk independently. I need to ask you something important, he said, and I need you to tell me the complete truth. The twins nodded solemnly. Is helping me hurting you in some way? Their amber eyes widened slightly, the first time Will had truly surprised them. Not hurting, Emma said carefully. Just using our energy, Olivia clarified. But it's making you tired, Will pressed. I can see it. The twins exchanged their silent communication before Emma spoke again. Our mommy told us that all healing requires exchange. Nothing is free, Olivia added. What exactly are you giving me? Will asked, his throat tight with sudden fear. Just some of our life force, Emma explained, as casually as if discussing sharing a sandwich. It grows back, Olivia assured him, like when you give blood. Will felt cold despite the warm room. And if you give too much? The twins didn't answer immediately, their expressions suddenly very childlike and vulnerable. Mommy gave too much once, Emma finally said, her voice small. She was sick for a long time after, Olivia added. Is that how she died? Will asked gently. The twins shook their heads. She got sick with regular sick, Emma explained, but she was already weak from helping Mr. Peterson walk again. She couldn't fight the pneumonia, Olivia finished. Will's heart pounded as the implications became clear. The twins weren't just helping him, they were potentially sacrificing their own health, perhaps even risking their lives. No more, he said firmly. No more healing sessions. It's not worth risking your health. The twins looked alarmed. But you're getting better, Emma protested. You're so close, Olivia added urgently. I don't care, Will replied. Nothing is worth putting you in danger. But we want to help you, they said together, their eyes filling with tears. Will reached out, taking one small hand from each twin. You already have, he said gently. You've given me more than I ever thought possible, but more importantly, you've given me a family. That's enough. The twins stared at him, their expressions shifting from disappointment to something like wonder. You're choosing us, Emma whispered. Over walking, Olivia added. Will nodded, his own eyes wet with tears. Every time. The adoption hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in late March. Will arrived at the courthouse surrounded by his support team, Rebecca, Dr. Chen, and Mrs. Pierce, who had become an unexpected ally in the process. The twins sat beside him in matching blue dresses, their curly hair neatly braided. In the 2 weeks since Will had halted their healing sessions, the girls had regained their vibrant energy. The shadows beneath their eyes had disappeared, replaced by healthy color and childlike exuberance. They still whispered their secret communications, still displayed their uncanny perception, but they no longer seemed to be carrying a burden too heavy for their small shoulders. Will's progress had slowed, but not stopped. The sensation and mobility he had regained remained, and traditional physical therapy was gradually strengthening his atrophied muscles. Dr. Chen had compiled a comprehensive medical file documenting the unprecedented recovery. though he was careful to avoid speculating about causes in his official reports. Judge Marilyn Sanderson, a veteran of family court with 30 years' experience, reviewed the case with careful neutrality. Will had expected questions about his disability, his ability to care for children, but instead the judge focused on his resources, support system, and emotional connection to the twins. "Mr. Montgomery," she said finally, "this is an unusual case in many respects. A single man with a significant disability seeking to adopt twins with a troubled placement history. However, the reports from child services, medical experts, and educational assessments all indicate that this placement has been remarkably successful." Will held his breath as the judge continued. "The stability, resources, and genuine affection you provide these children meets and exceeds our standards for adoption. Unless there are objections from any party present, I am prepared to approve this adoption." Mrs. Pierce stood. "Your Honor, as the children's caseworker, I fully support this adoption. In my 22 years of service, I have rarely seen children thrive so quickly in a new placement." Judge Sanderson nodded. "Then, by the power vested in me by the state of Washington, I hereby declare Emma and Olivia Collins to be legally adopted, with their names changed to Emma and Olivia Montgomery. Congratulations to your new family." The twins beamed with identical expressions of joy, their amber eyes shining with tears. They hugged Will, then each other, then everyone within reach. "We're a real family now," Emma said, her voice wobbling with emotion. "Forever," Olivia added. As they left the courthouse, Will noticed a small group of reporters gathered on the steps. News of his condition had leaked, despite their best efforts at privacy. "Mr. Montgomery," called one reporter, rushing forward, "is it true you're experiencing a miraculous recovery from lifelong paralysis?" "Did these children really predict you would walk again?" asked another. Will hesitated, then spoke carefully. "My medical condition is private. What isn't private is my joy at officially becoming a father today. These remarkable girls are now Emma and Olivia Montgomery, and that's the only miracle I care to discuss." Rebecca quickly ushered them to the waiting car, shielding the twins from the cameras and questions. "That won't be the end of it," she warned as they drove away. "This story is too sensational to ignore. Billionaire adopts mysterious twins, suddenly begins to recover from lifelong paralysis. The media will be relentless." Will nodded grimly. "We'll increase security at the house. No interviews, no statements beyond what I just gave." The twins listened to this exchange with unusual seriousness. "People will want to know how you're getting better," Emma observed. "They'll want us to help them too," Olivia added. "I won't let anyone bother you," Will promised. "Your only job is to be children, to play and learn and grow." "But we're not like other children," they said together. Will smiled at them fondly. "No, you're certainly not. But you deserve a childhood all the same." That evening, they celebrated with a small party at home. Thomas Harrington, Will's business partner and oldest friend, joined them, bringing extravagant gifts for the twins and a bottle of 30-year-old scotch for Will. "To new beginnings," Thomas toasted, raising his glass. At 50, he had witnessed Will's entire business journey, from struggling start-up to tech empire, and to the two newest Montgomerys. Later, after the twins had gone to bed, Thomas lingered in Will's study. "They're extraordinary children," he observed. "Not just the weird healing thing, but their minds, their perception." Will nodded. "They see the world differently." "And you?" Thomas asked carefully. "How are you really doing with all this?" Will considered the question. "Transformed," he said finally. "Not just physically, but everything has changed, Thomas. For the first time in my life, I'm not defined by what I can't do. The doctors still have no explanation. None that makes scientific sense, but I've stopped looking for explanations and started accepting possibilities. Thomas studied his old friend. You know, all those years we spent building Montgomery Solutions, I thought you were driven by ambition. But it was always about control, wasn't it? Controlling your environment, your destiny. Will smiled ruefully. And now I've learned to let go, to trust in something I can't understand or control. Fatherhood will do that to you, Thomas said with a laugh. Wait until they're teenagers. The next morning, Will woke to find the twins sitting at the foot of his bed, watching him with their unsettling intensity. Is everything okay? He asked, immediately concerned. We've been thinking, Emma began. About your legs, Olivia continued. Will frowned. We discussed this. No more healing sessions. We know, they said together, but we had a dream. The same dream, Emma clarified. About how to help you without hurting us, Olivia finished. Will sat up, intrigued despite his caution. What kind of dream? Mommy came to us, Emma said simply. She showed us a better way. A safer way, Olivia added. To finish what we started, they concluded together. Will studied their earnest faces, torn between hope and fear. I won't risk your health, he said firmly. Not for anything. That's why it will work, Emma explained cryptically. Because you love us more than walking, Olivia added. That changes everything, they said in unison. Explain this dream, Will said, his curiosity overcoming his caution. The twins settled more comfortably on his bed, their expressions animated for the first time in weeks when discussing his recovery. Mommy said we were doing it wrong, Emma began. Using our energy instead of connecting energies, Olivia clarified. It's like... Emma paused, searching for words a child could use to explain something beyond adult understanding. Like we were giving you our batteries instead of showing you how to recharge your own. Will frowned. And this new method would be safer for you. We don't give you anything, Olivia explained. We just show your body how to remember. Like teaching instead of doing, Emma added. Will considered their explanation. And your mother showed you this in a dream? The twins nodded solemnly. She's still watching over us, Emma said. She was worried we'd give too much, Olivia added. Despite his scientific skepticism about dream visitations, Will couldn't dismiss the twins' conviction. Their previous methods, however inexplicable, had produced undeniable results. If, and I mean if, we try this, Will said carefully, how would I know it's not draining you? We'd do it together, Emma suggested. You, me, and Olivia. You'd feel what we feel, and Dr. Chen could check us before and after, Olivia added practically. Will smiled at their thoughtfulness. Let me think about it, he promised. Later that day, Dr. Chen arrived for Will's regular physical therapy session. After assessing Will's progress, which continued to baffle and impress the medical team, Dr. Chen mentioned the increasing media interest. Johns Hopkins wants to publish a case study, he said. Harvard Medical is requesting tissue samples. The Mayo Clinic has offered full access to their regenerative medicine department. Will sighed. And what would you recommend as my doctor and my friend? Dr. Chen considered carefully. As your doctor, I'd say the scientific community deserves to study your case. What's happening to you could potentially help countless others with spinal injuries. And as my friend? As your friend, I'd say follow your instincts. You've got something remarkable here, not just your recovery, but those children. Trust whatever process is working for you. Will nodded. The twins want to try again. A different approach they say their mother showed them in a dream. Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow. And you're considering it. They believe it won't drain their energy this time. Would you be willing to monitor them, check their vital signs before and after? Of course, Dr. Chen agreed. When? Tomorrow morning, Will decided. Their usual time. That night, Will could barely sleep. He alternated between hope and anxiety, hope that the twins' new method might complete his healing, anxiety that they might harm themselves despite their assurances. When dawn finally broke, he was already awake, staring at the ceiling. Right on schedule, there was a soft knock at his door, and the twins entered in their matching pajamas, followed by Dr. Chen carrying monitoring equipment. "Good morning," Will said, trying to sound calmer than he felt. "Doctor." Chen attached small sensors to the twins' wrists and temples, connecting them to a portable monitor. "These will track heart rate, blood pressure, brain activity and oxygen levels," he explained. "If anything changes significantly, we'll stop immediately." The twins nodded, seemingly unconcerned as they climbed onto Will's bed. This time, instead of placing their hands on his legs, they each took one of his hands. "Close your eyes," Emma instructed. "And listen with your heart, not your ears," Olivia added. Will complied, feeling slightly foolish but determined to follow their guidance. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then slowly, he became aware of a subtle vibration passing through their joined hands. It wasn't physical exactly, more like the awareness of electricity before touching a metal doorknob. "Can you feel that?" Emma asked softly. "Yes," Will whispered. "That's your energy," Olivia explained. "It's always been there." "Now feel ours," they said together. The vibration changed, becoming more distinct, like a musical note joining a single tone to create harmony. "We're showing your body how energy should flow," Emma said. "Not giving you ours," Olivia emphasized. "Just teaching." Will felt warmth spreading from their joined hands, up his arms, through his chest, and down into his legs. Unlike their previous sessions, this didn't feel like something entering him from outside, but rather like something within him awakening, remembering. Dr. Chen watched the monitors closely. "Heart rate stable," he reported. "Brain activity synchronizing, but within normal parameters." The sensation continued to build, flowing through Will's body like a gentle current. When it reached his legs, he gasped. The tingling was stronger than ever before, but different. Not the pins and needles of returning sensation, but a solid, grounded feeling of connection. "Try moving now," Emma suggested. Without opening his eyes, Will focused on his legs. They responded immediately, bending at the knees, then straightening. No hesitation, no weakness, just normal, natural movement. "Oh my God," Dr. Chen breathed. Will opened his eyes to see his legs moving smoothly under the blankets, as if they had never been paralyzed. The twins were still holding his hands, their amber eyes watching him with perfect confidence. "How do you feel?" Olivia asked. "Complete," Will answered truthfully. "Like I've found something I never knew was missing." Dr. Chen checked the monitors again. "The girl's vital signs are completely normal," he reported. "No signs of stress or depletion." The twins beamed. "See," Emma said happily. "Mummy was right. Teaching is better than giving," Olivia added. Will squeezed their hands gently. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Try standing," they suggested together. Will hesitated. Despite the extraordinary progress, he hadn't attempted to bear his full weight yet. The physical therapists had warned about rushing this stage, about the risk of falls and injuries after a lifetime of muscle atrophy. "Are you sure?" he asked. The twins nodded confidently. Slowly, Will moved to the edge of the bed. With Dr. Chen hovering nearby, ready to catch him, he placed his feet on the floor. The sensation was intense. The coolness of the hardwood, the pressure against his soles. He took a deep breath and pushed himself upright. For one perfect moment, William Montgomery stood on his own 2 feet for the first time in his 45 years of life. Then his knees buckled. Dr. Chen caught him before he could fall, helping him back to the bed. "That was incredible," he said. but your muscles still need time to strengthen. Will nodded, not discouraged. He had stood. Actually stood. The rest was just practice and patience. The twins watched with identical expressions of satisfaction. "It's working," Emma said. "Just like Mommy showed us," Olivia added. "But slowly," they cautioned together, "one step at a time." Spring arrived in Seattle with an explosion of cherry blossoms and new beginnings. 3 months had passed since the twins had officially become Montgomerys, and life in the mansion had transformed as dramatically as the season. Will progressed from standing with support to walking short distances with a walker. His medical team documented every milestone with scientific precision, though they had long since abandoned conventional explanations for his recovery. Most had settled into a respectful agnosticism about the cause while focusing on supporting the effect through traditional physical therapy. The press continued to circulate rumors about the Montgomery miracle, but Will's privacy measures held firm. No reporters breached the estate's security, and no details leaked from the medical team. The public remained fascinated but uninformed, allowing the new family to bond in relative peace. The twins flourished in their new life. Their academic assessments placed them years ahead of their peers, prompting Rebecca to arrange for private tutoring rather than conventional schooling. They remained unusual children, still speaking in unison, still displaying uncanny perception, but they also began to show more typical childish behaviors. They developed an obsession with butterflies, demanded ice cream after dinner, and occasionally even argued with each other. On a warm April afternoon, Will sat in the garden watching the twins chase butterflies among the flower beds. He still used a wheelchair for longer periods, but today he sat in a regular garden chair, savoring the sensation of grass beneath his feet. Rebecca joined him, carrying iced tea. "They seem so normal today," she observed, nodding toward the girls. Will smiled. "They contain multitudes." "The adoption attorney called," Rebecca said. "All the final paperwork is complete. They're officially, irrevocably yours." "No, I'm theirs," Will corrected gently. "They chose me, remember?" Rebecca studied him. "You know, in all the years I've worked for you, I've never seen you happy until now." "I wasn't," Will admitted. "Successful, yes, accomplished, certainly, but not happy." The twins spotted them talking and ran over, their cheeks flushed with exertion. "Daddy!" they called in unison, a title that still sent a thrill through Will's heart every time he heard it. "We need butterfly books," Emma announced. "And nets," Olivia added, "gentle ones that won't hurt them." "We want to learn all the species," they explained together. Will laughed. "I think we can arrange that." As the twins raced off again, Rebecca shook her head in amazement. "It's like they've forgotten they have supernatural healing powers." "They haven't forgotten," Will said. "They're just being children too." The twins continued their morning sessions with Will, though they had evolved into something more like guided meditation than healing. Together, they would sit in quiet connection, synchronizing their energy in the way Sarah Collins had apparently taught her daughters before her death. Will's medical team, led by Dr. Chen, continued to document his progress while respecting the twins' privacy. The scientific papers they eventually published focused on the physiological changes rather than speculating on causes, describing Will's case as spontaneous neural regeneration of unknown etiology. In early May, Dr. Chen brought news of a breakthrough in understanding Will's condition. "We've been analyzing your genetic samples," he explained during a private consultation. "There's a rare mutation in your KF1A gene that affects neuronal transport." "In English, please," Will requested. "Essentially, the signals from your brain were always capable of reaching your legs, but there was a blockage in the transmission process. Something, and I'm not saying it was the twins' energy work, but something, has bypassed that blockage. So I wasn't permanently damaged? Will asked, trying to process this information. Your spinal cord and nerves were always intact, Dr. Chen confirmed. The pathway was just dormant. Will thought about the twins' consistent explanation, that his energy was blocked, not broken. They knew, he said softly. Somehow, they knew. That evening, Will shared Dr. Chen's findings with the twins during their bedtime routine. They listened with matching expressions of polite interest, as if hearing confirmation of something they had always known. That's what we told you, Emma said simply. Your energy was stuck. Not broken, Olivia emphasized. But how did you know? Will pressed. Even the doctors didn't understand my condition until now. The twins exchanged one of their looks. We just see it, Emma explained. Like colors around people, Olivia added. Mommy called it auras, they said together. She taught us how to read them. Will had long since stopped questioning the twins' abilities. Whether it was some form of heightened perception, genuine psychic capability, or simply extraordinary intuition, didn't matter. The results were undeniable. Well, Dr. Chen thinks I'll be able to walk normally within a few more months, Will told them. My muscles are getting stronger every day. The twins nodded, unsurprised. We know, Emma said confidently. We've always known, Olivia added. As he tucked them into their beds, Will was struck again by the extraordinary journey that had brought them together. From a chance meeting at a charity gala to becoming a family, it seemed both miraculous and somehow predestined. Good night, my miracle twins, he said softly, kissing each girl on the forehead. Good night, Daddy, they replied in unison. As Will turned to leave, Emma called out, Daddy, there's something we need to tell you. Will turned back, instantly alert to the serious tone in her voice. What is it? The twins sat up in their beds, their amber eyes solemn in the soft glow of their nightlights. We didn't just happen to be at that gala, Olivia said quietly. We asked Mrs. Pierce to take us, Emma continued, because we saw you in our dreams, they said together. Will felt a chill of recognition. Before we met? They nodded. For months, Emma confirmed. We saw you sad and alone, Olivia explained, and we knew we could help you, they finished together. Will moved back to sit between their beds. You dreamed about me before we met, he repeated, trying to make sense of this revelation. Mommy comes to us in dreams, Emma explained. She told us you needed us, Olivia added. And we needed you, they concluded. Will's scientific mind struggled with this concept, but his heart, the heart that had been transformed by these extraordinary children, accepted it without question. I think, he said carefully, that some things in this world are beyond our understanding. And I'm okay with that. The twins smiled, relieved by his acceptance. We knew you would be, they said together. That's why you were chosen. 1 year to the day after the Children's Hope Foundation Gala, where they first met, Will stood at the edge of his garden without support, watching the twins chase butterflies through beds of summer flowers. His recovery had progressed beyond anyone's expectations, even Dr. Chen's increasingly optimistic projections. At 46, William Montgomery had been reborn. His body, once a prison of immobility, now moved with increasing strength and confidence. His heart, once isolated behind walls of bitter resignation, now expanded with love for the two small miracles who had changed everything. They look happy, Thomas observed, joining Will on the garden path. He had become a frequent visitor and an enthusiastic uncle figure to the twins. They are happy, Will confirmed. We all are. The board wants to know when you're coming back full-time, Thomas said, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Will smiled. Montgomery Solutions is in excellent hands with you as CEO. I'll consult when needed, but my priority is right here. He nodded toward the twins, who had discovered a particularly vibrant butterfly and were following it with reverent concentration. "I never thought I'd see the day when William Montgomery chose family over business," Thomas said, though there was no judgment in his voice, only wonder at his friend's transformation. "Neither did I," Will admitted. "But then, I never thought I'd see the day I could stand on my own 2 feet either." As if sensing they were being discussed, the twins abandoned their butterfly pursuit and ran toward Will and Thomas. At 7 now, they had grown taller, their amber eyes as striking as ever in their sun-browned faces. "Daddy!" they called. "Can we show Uncle Thomas our new trick?" Will laughed. "As long as it doesn't involve making anything levitate, I think Thomas has had enough supernatural experiences for one lifetime." The twins giggled, a wonderfully ordinary sound from such extraordinary children. "No levitation today," Emma promised. "Just butterflies," Olivia added. They demonstrated how they could stand perfectly still with their arms outstretched, waiting patiently until butterflies landed on their fingers. Their synchronization remained perfect, their movements mirror images of each other. "Remarkable," Thomas murmured. "Are they always still so?" "Connected," Will supplied. "Yes. The doctors say they've never seen twins with such heightened synchronicity. They share dreams, finish each other's thoughts, feel each other's pain." "And the healing ability?" Will shrugged. "They don't talk about it much anymore. It's just part of who they are, like their eye color or their love of butterflies." The truth was more complex. The twins still performed their morning ritual with Will, though it had evolved into something more like spiritual practice than healing session. Sometimes Will caught them watching other people with their intense, evaluating gaze. The gardener with arthritis, a delivery person with a limp, even Dr. Chen when he mentioned his migraines. But they never approached anyone else, never offered their gift beyond their family circle. "Will they ever use their ability to help others?" Thomas asked, as if reading Will's thoughts. "That will be their choice when they're older," Will replied. "For now, they deserve a childhood, something they never really had until now." As the afternoon light began to fade, Rebecca called from the terrace that dinner was ready. The twins ran ahead, while Will and Thomas followed more slowly. "I have something to show you," Will said, stopping Thomas with a hand on his arm. "Something I haven't shown anyone yet." Thomas raised an eyebrow questioningly. Will took a deep breath, then did something he had been practicing in private for weeks. He broke into a jog, running several yards along the garden path before returning to Thomas with a triumphant smile. Thomas stared in amazement. "My God, Will." "I've been working up to it," Will explained, slightly out of breath but exhilarated. "The physical therapists say it's unprecedented. Does anyone else know?" Will shook his head. "Just you. And the twins, of course. They always know. I'm planning to surprise Rebecca and Dr. Chen tonight." "They'll be thrilled," Thomas said, clearly moved by his friend's achievement. At dinner, the extended family gathered around the table. Will, the twins, Rebecca, Thomas, and Dr. Chen, who had become a close friend through the extraordinary journey of the past year. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by the twins' enthusiastic descriptions of their butterfly discoveries. When dessert was served, Will caught the twins' eyes and received their slight nods of encouragement. He stood, raising his glass for a toast. "1 year ago today, my life changed forever when 2 remarkable little girls told me I could be healed. I didn't believe them then. Why would I? I'd spent 45 years accepting the impossible couldn't happen." He looked at each person around the table. "But Emma and Olivia taught me the most important lesson of my life, that what we believe creates our reality. They saw possibilities where everyone else, including me, saw limitations." Will set down his glass and stepped away from the table. "And so, on this anniversary, I want to share something with all of you." With that, William Montgomery walked a complete circle around the dining table, his gait steady and confident. Rebecca gasped. "Doctor." Jen watched with professional satisfaction mixed with personal joy, and Thomas beamed with pride. The twins simply smiled their knowing smiles, holding hands as they watched their father demonstrate the miracle they had always seen as inevitable. When Will returned to his place, there wasn't a dry eye at the table. He knelt between the twins' chairs, gathering them into a tight embrace. "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything." "We knew you could do it," Emma said, her small hand touching his cheek. "You just needed to remember how to believe," Olivia added. Later that night, after the celebrations had ended and the house grew quiet, Will stood at the twins' bedroom door, watching them sleep. In repose, they looked like any other children, peaceful, innocent, unburdened by the extraordinary gifts they carried. As he turned to leave, Will noticed something on their dresser, a framed drawing he hadn't seen before. He moved closer to examine it in the dim nightlight. It was the picture they had drawn on the day of their first meeting. His house, with 3 figures standing in front. But now there was something new added to the drawing, butterfly-like figures hovering around the 3 people, drawn in vibrant colors. Beneath the picture, in careful childish handwriting, were the words, "Our family, whole again." Will touched the drawing gently, his heart full of gratitude for the miracle of second chances, for the mystery of healing, and for the 2 extraordinary children who had seen possibility where others saw only limitation. "Whole again," he whispered. "Yes, we are."